The cope of Alex Pereira has been interesting, confusing, and quite frankly, deeply saddening to watch. Alex Pereira, following his defeat at UFC Freedom 250 to Ciryl Gane by vicious TKO, has been on a media tour crying, moaning, complaining, and making excuses about his loss. And I'm going to be breaking down in today's video why Alex Pereira is not the man you think he is and why he's always been like this. And I'm going to show proof. I have proof and I'm ready to show it. Stay tuned. Alex Pereira has always been one of those fighters that has been sold to us as a stoic savage, right? He's not a talker. He doesn't speak English. He's very stoic. He's very quiet. And he really sells fights through his style, through his knockouts, through his savagery, through his skill. He doesn't talk to sell fights. I remember when he first won the belt against Israel Adesanya, I remember seeing comments saying that Dana White was fuming, that Dana White was upset that he had a champion that couldn't speak English, that wasn't very promotable, and that would really never become the same level of star as Israel Adesanya. And boy, oh boy, were they wrong. But you can see at the time why people thought that. Because quite frankly, he didn't say anything. He didn't do much to promote the fight. He would just stare at you. He didn't really say anything. He didn't really do anything outside of the octagon to promote his fights. However, eventually, fight after fight, performance after performance, short notice after short notice, he built himself up to be a double champ, and he built himself up to be a superstar even bigger than Israel Adesanya. And this was based solely on his humility, his performances, and his fight style. Now, his performances, whilst the Ciryl Gane loss is disappointing for him and his fans, and it does make a dent on his star power for sure, it doesn't take away from the Yuri Prochazka fight, the Jamal Hill fight at UFC 300. Even the Israel Adesanya win that he had at middleweight, even the Sean Strickland win he had as a middleweight contender, it doesn't take away from those performances, but it certainly makes a dent on his star power. The main thing, however, that has been impacting Pereira and that has had the most damage on his star power has been the media tour he's been on thus far. Now, all you have to do is open Alex Pereira's Instagram and you can see 1,000 fucking stories of him moaning about Herb Dean, complaining about Herb Dean. Fair play, he was fouled, but he was dropped by a legal shot. And quite frankly, it doesn't look good to the outside viewer, to the casual fan who doesn't really quite understand the rules as much as a hardcore fan would. To see a guy who used to be, in their eyes, stoic, quiet, humble, this absolute killer, this absolute monster, complaining about his loss and claiming that he got dropped by what was called a lucky jab. There was nothing lucky about the jab Ciryl Gane landed. And this is coming from one of Alex Pereira's biggest fans. I've been there since the Jan Blachowicz fight, right? I was obviously disappointed when he knocked out my boy Israel Adesanya, okay? I'm a big Izzy fan, all right? Come for me in the comments, right? Last dog bend, okay, all right, whatever. Get it out of the way. I'm a big Israel Adesanya fan. I was rooting for Izzy to beat Pereira to finally overcome his nemesis. And when he did in the rematch, I was extremely happy. But I've been a Pereira fan, and I've come to respect his game since the Jan Blachowicz fight when he moved up to light heavyweight and when he beat Yuri Prochazka afterwards to win the vacant belt. I am a fan of this guy. But even as a fan of this guy, I can see blatantly how this is hurting his career and how this is making him look like, to be honest with you, a bit of a crybaby. There's been some interviews coming out, there's been some seminars that have been released where Pereira has been refusing to take photos with fans. He's been showing up late to seminars. He's been asking for more money, essentially extorting the people who have organized the seminar and arranged for him to be there, extorting more money out of them just so he can do a speech in Portuguese and have it translated. This is absolutely crazy work from the stoic legend that was once the face of the UFC. The downfall of Alex Pereira needs to be studied. It clearly needs to be studied because the pieces for it were always there. When he lost the second Israel Adesanya fight, There were excuses that came out then. The weight cut. He felt slow in there. He felt like he was beating Israel Adesanya, and Israel Adesanya got lucky and landed a good shot that put him away. These are words that he has said. The proof is out there. He has made these claims after losing to Israel Adesanya in the second fight at middleweight. Fair play, the weight cut excuse is a legitimate one. He was killing himself to make 185, but it is a choice to cut weight. It is a choice to make weight, and he made that choice to chase the Israel Adesanya fight after he had already bulked up to 205 pounds at Glory when he was kickboxing. So the reality is, he chose to make that weight. That cannot be used as an excuse, as a real excuse, when complaining about the outcome of that fight, because he chose to try and get to 185. He chose to make that championship weight. Another excuse came out when he lost to Magomed Ankalaev. I had rotavirus. My hand was broken. Blah, 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 blah. Everything under the sun came out, and he was called a coping loser until 6 months later, he knocked out Magomed in the rematch. Winners write history. Winners dictate what is said. And if Alex Pereira comes back, beats a contender like Josh Hockett, and knocks out Ciryl Gane or knocks out Tom Aspinall, he will be regarded as the GOAT of the sport. Everything about this coping, everything about his saltiness, everything about the sore loser energy that he has been showing and displaying as of late will go away. It will be forgotten. Winners dictate what is said, but there will always be proof out there, and the proof is undoubtable. He has been coping about every single loss in the UFC, and he's been coping hard. Israel Adesanya, Magomed Ankalaev, and now Ciryl Gane. There's always an excuse with this guy. There's always an excuse. Fair enough. The excuses are rooted in truth. There is evidence. There is some semblance of truth behind the excuses he's making, but they're still excuses. You look at Ilia Topuria. Ilia Topuria came out after the Justin Gaethje loss and said nothing but respectful words and nothing but kindness and gratitude and gratefulness for the opportunity towards Justin Gaethje. He made no excuses. He said the better man won. He said he had a great training camp. And that was that. Ilia Topuria, one of the most cocky fighters of all time, one of the most arrogant cunts of the UFC right now, talked all this shit in the build-up. He was getting the white roses out. He was preparing the funeral for Justin Gaethje. He lost, and instead of coming out with excuses, he came out with honesty, and he came out with respect and humility. And quite frankly, this is what Alex Pereira needs to do. He is losing his fans by viciously coping about the loss to Ciryl Gane, and it will hurt his career. Because as I've said before, and as I've said time and time again, Alex Pereira's entire identity, his entire career, the reason he is worth millions of dollars is because he was a stoic savage who didn't cope, who didn't cry. And coping and crying and moaning and making excuses is not a characteristic or characteristics of the stoic image that he has portrayed himself to be in the UFC. And quite frankly, his managers need to talk to him, because this is going to hurt sponsorship. This is going to hurt UFC fights. He's losing his fans. And quite frankly, he's losing his fans very quickly. Alex Pereira, sort yourself out, mate. Sort yourself out.